business. Now, they take all the lands. Sister Charles, the chairperson, talk about a peace treaty which Chatoyer signed. Between 1764 and when Chatoyer was killed in battle in 1795, they had several truces, and every one of them, the British broke them. Every single one of them, they broke them. Remember, I'm telling you, the British at that time are not like the British today. I'm not saying they don't have weaknesses, but we work together now on many things. So I have to put everything in perspective. By 1800, after the genocide was committed, they moved the bulk of as they call them, the remnants of a once proud people. That's what they call them, you know, the remnants of a once proud people. Put them on 238 acres of land in what you call Carib country, inhospitable land. So, you kill most of the males. You're transported forcibly to Balisu. Most of the males and half of what the 5,000 you took there died within 6 months. The rest, you take them to Rattan Island, and then from there they go to Belize. In the Bay of Honduras to Belize, to Honduras, Nicaragua, and Guatemala. The remnants of this proud people. How they put up there, largely old people, some too young, who couldn't fight, and of course, a disproportionate number of women. Just like the original, the Amerindians in North America, on the settlements they put them, they get frustrated. And they start to drink rum, a lot of rum. And what they then say? Carib people love strong rum. You know that. I am talking here now to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Carib people love strong rum. Carib people didn't love any more strong rum than the British when they were having a lot of moonshine during the Industrial Revolution, when the working class had a lot of pressure. Why do you think John Wesley was successful with the English industrialists? He said he must have temperance. He was saying that too many working class people were going to the factories drunk. They were under pressure. You have to read the history, you know. I ain't saying that people still can't fool me, you know. But it's difficult to fool a man like me, who read as much as I read and the years that I live. Sometimes I may make you believe you fool me. But that don't mean you fool me. But life is too short. No. So that's what they said about the men. And if you want to reproduce, there is only one way a people can be reproduced. It's through biology. No star comes. You know when they teach for us that babies come by stalk? Is a man and a woman have to be engaged in a particular act. But if you don't have enough strong men up there, men are going to come from other parts going up there. And then the next thing they say, total lie, that Carib man love rum, they say. And Carib woman love sex. Easy to get. Yes, yes. People don't want, only Ralph talks about these things. But how is it that when the British came here, when Europeans came here, there was no prostitution? And when they came here and there was no prostitution, you had prostitutes like peas on the streets of London, Manchester, and Liverpool. So you're coming to tell me. So when we reclaim in our history, we reclaim it in life and living and production. And listen, it was cut off by the Rabocadry River, and when it come down, nobody can move. Now we have a bridge. You didn't have a secondary school, you know. Imagine that. From 1800 to 2001. 200 years. You had no secondary school in Sandy Bay, you know. You didn't have an ambulance. One of the poorer parts of this St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And it must be said that the changes have been done for the better. Between 1851 and now, different governments have made their contributions. I'm not talking politics. I'm talking development and people. Now, the unity of the Garifuna and the Kalinago people is very important. And the firmness of the leadership and the spirit, very important. And we have to emulate those. However, and we must be united as one people and be peaceful. But as you know, today in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there are many people who preach peace with their lips, but prepare for war because they have hatred and malice inside of their heart. You can't say you're following Chatouillet and you got hatred and malice inside of your heart. You have to have love. And you can't, in one moment, telling me you're going to follow the example of Chatouillet, and you want to go and break somebody's house, thief what they got and kill them. That is against the legacy of Chatouillet. I want to put it clear. When we go to history, there are three ways we can approach it. The first, we can live in history. Some people seek to do that, you know. Some people seek to do it because they think they could make a living out of living in history. And some people want to live there because of opportunism. Either because they're misguided or because of opportunism, you cannot live in history. Secondly, you can't say that history is not important, that it is bunk. Because if you say so, as Maxine said, we'll deny our dignity, we will deny ourselves. And as Sheikhin tells us in his poem, Private Prayer, to understand how the whole thing run, we have to come home to ourselves, to get to know ourselves and to use that knowledge to help to lift us higher and higher. The third way of looking at history is to make sure that we do not use it to desecrate the future. Because as the poet Daniel Williams, our own poet, tells us, of all time, only the future is ours to desecrate. The present is the past, and the past, our parents' mischiefs. Only the future of all time we cannot desecrate. It's the only one. Because the past has gone, the present is the past. But we have to use that past to understand fully where we are with all our strengths and weaknesses, our possibilities and limitations. And to fortify our strengths and possibilities and reduce as far as practical our weaknesses and limitations, or to have those weaknesses and limitations metamorphose into strengths and possibilities for the good of ourselves, our families, our communities, and our nation, and our region, and the world. So it's important. And the language in which we make those dreams has to be also our language. Whether it is the Garifuna language or the language which we have developed in our own quote-unquote dialect. Of course, we know for universal acceptability, that's not there because you turn on the computer, you put on your cell phone, you don't see Garifuna language, you don't see our dialect, you see English. So you have to know that, because that is the language of commerce and of all our communication. But when you dream, you have to dream with the spirit and the impulses and even the language of our people and of the folk. And that's very often on the platform. You hear me use words from the folk. Sometimes some young people don't even understand them. They have to ask me, what you say, what you mean they? But all that is part of the socialization and the learning in the communities and in the schools. Now, this country has been populated by, we have the indigenous peoples, the Kalinago. Africans came before organized slavery by the British. And of course, 64,000 came, well, 50-something thousand landed between 1764 and 1864 and 1807. 1764 and 1807. And then we had indentured laborers from Madeira, about 2,000 between 1845 and 1850. And between 1861 and 1881, we had about 2,500 indentured laborers coming from India. And of course, Europeans came with British colonialism. And since then, since the Indian indentured laborers, we have had recent arrivals. Those from the Middle East and some from the Chinese civilization. The point about it is this. Through the fever of history, our country has moved from one in which the ethnic, racial or cultural section, each of them had its own distinct pattern of socio-cultural integration. They coexisted side by side, but they didn't live together. And through the process of history, that culturally plural society has moved. Barriers have been broken down. The society became more diverse and heterogeneous until we are arrived at a position where we have in this country relatively speaking, a homogeneous society. We have a magnificent Vincentian component integrated and united within the context of our Caribbean civilization, which has a nobility, which has a legitimacy, which has a uniqueness, and which has a trajectory for further development. And with the British colonizers, through the fever of history, 5 important developments took place with them and us. We have the common law. We have parliamentary democracy. We have an independent and professional public service. We have an independent judiciary. And we have the English language. These are 5 important pillars in our development. But I want to say this, none of these pillars, singly or jointly, could ever justify native genocide or the enslavement of Africans, the consequences of which still ravage us and for which we demand reparations. No. In Britain, there's a mainstream political party which said that reparations should be put on the agenda. Some universities, including Glasgow University, say there should be reparations. In 2007, at the occasion of the 200th anniversary of the abolition of the slave trade, no less a person than the Archbishop of Canterbury from the Anglican Church at Westminster Abbey said that there should be reparations. In the American Congress, it is being debated. You hear Democratic candidates for the presidency, more than one of them, mainstream, say, yes, reparations should be put on the agenda. Morning by morning, new mercies we see. All that we need, thy hand that provided, great is thy faithfulness. It's coming. I may not see it myself. I may not see it myself. But I know with great certainty that it is coming. No. We are celebrating today. We are celebrating this day at the time of COVID-19. And I have to say something about it. Because the same spirit of Chatoyer and the Garifuna people to fight against adversity. And not only Chatoyer and the Kalinago and the Garifuna people. Major leaders including, and the people, McIntosh, George Augustus McIntosh, Ebenezer Theodore Joshua, Robert Milton Cato. I'm only talking about those who are dead. People like Dr. J.P. Eustace. Women also who stood alongside their men and often in front of them making important contributions. A woman like Ivy Joshua. An educator like Norma Keyser, and we can call them. Some of the names I've mentioned, I have written also that they should be given consideration for the status of national hero. That conversation is ongoing. Maybe the occasion is not yet ripe, but we will see. Now,